Hi, this is Bernard from OTP, and today I'm going to bring you another video on Crooked Letter. I've had some requests, and sorry for being slack on that, but today we're definitely going to go on with the novel, and I hope to give you some good information connected to the questions that you guys have asked me in the comments, so please continue with those. I've really enjoyed discussing different aspects with you in the topics, in the comments, and I just hope for more because I really enjoy that. So, sorry. Two requests I've had recently were that I make a video on friendship, and that is upcoming. I'll do that next week. But if we look at the friendship between Silas and Larry, then we really have to get another topic out of the way. But let's jump right in. So this is what we've been discussing so far. We talked about the basics. We started talking about the topics in general, and we talked about what kind of topics the novel actually has. Of course, there's more than these, but these were the ones that I picked out for you. We jumped into responsibility for the crimes, for Larry's ostracism, and also quickly about Wallace. And yeah, so this question about Silas's responsibility for Larry's ostracism, this of course has something to do with guilt and penance, but it also has something to do with friendship. So this is basically where we're going to go today. So we're going to have a look at the character's guilt, at when they realize what they've done, at the penance that they suffer, and also how they make amends, and if they try to make amends for the mistakes they've made. And so you can see, small car on the one hand, the car mechanic, and on the other hand, the police officer Silas. So let's just jump right in. Let's start with the guilt. So the one big mistake that Larry makes in the novel is, of course, calling Silas nigger when his father makes the two boys fight. Well, it's actually their father, right? But we don't know that at that point. So we have this gun incident. Larry lends Silas his gun. Carl wants the gun back. Larry doesn't have it. He finds out that he's lent the gun to Silas. So he comes up to the boys all drunk and tells them to fight over the gun, which they don't want to do, but he has a belt with him, so he makes them fight anyway. And of course, his true son, his real son, or his socially acknowledged son, Larry, is a weak wimp. That's what Carl thinks. So Carl really despises him, we know that. And his other son, his illegitimate son, Silas, on the other hand, is very strong. So he really gets it to Larry, and Larry sees himself in a situation where this word escapes his lips. So he stammers out nigger in the direction of Silas, and this is of course a horrific thing to say, and something that sort of puts a border between Silas and Larry that is really hard to get over. And instantaneously there is a change, a final change within their friendship. On the other hand, Silas's guilt is towards Larry. On the one hand, is that he's withholding evidence that proves Larry's innocence. So when you think about the plot, we think about that he is the last person to have seen Cindy and not Larry. So he withholds that, and with that basically, well, puts sort of a death sentence on Larry's social contacts, and also a death sentence on his business. And he withholds this evidence for a very, very long time. And when we ask whether can he be seen as responsible for Larry's ostracism, we have to say, to a large extent, yes. And there's also his ungrateful behavior towards his mother, which comes up here and there, is something that just fits the picture overall. So when we have a look at the realization, when do they realize the mistakes they've made, we can see there's a vast difference between the two. Because for Larry, his realization that what he says to Silas is instantaneous. So if you look at the page 90 in the version that I'm using, after Silas is called nigger by Larry, like 2 sentences, 3 sentences later, Larry instantly regrets what he said, but he knows it's too late, right? So he knows in that situation that it's over for the moment. On the other hand, we have the realization of what Silas has done in general, very late in the novel, and also in the plot, right? So there's this one reference which I think is just super important. It's on page 224, where Silas actually realizes that letting himself off the hook had been his way of life. And it's true. So he has never really owned up to his guilt to that point. And he only realizes that after he had a couple of chats with his girlfriend who helped him to reflect on himself. So she's a very important character with that respect. So she's very honest and she's very reflecting, and she doesn't let Silas off the hook. So penance. How are they punished? How do they punish themselves? On the one hand, we have Larry again. Part of his isolation, especially his broken relationship to Silas, he takes it on himself. So he takes the blame because he believes that he deserves to be isolated to some extent, for, as well, you could say, as a punishment for what he did to Silas. So this is a part of why he doesn't struggle against all those rumors, why he doesn't struggle against his social ostracism, as you would expect someone to do. It's a part of it. So his penance is partly his guilt. On the other hand, we have Silas, and here it's a bit more complicated. So there are 2 things which I find very, very important and really telling. Things that he doesn't need to do, but that he suffers himself, or he makes himself suffer because for him it's a form of penance. The first one is he thinks he deserves the pain. Of course, we know there's this struggle with Wallace and the dog that bites his arm, and he's in a lot of pain after the operation, and but he decides not to take painkillers. So that's a decision that he doesn't have to make, and it's actually illogical if you have a look at it. But for him, it's a form of penance. So he thinks he deserves the pain in his arm as a sort of punishment for what he's done to Larry. And he even turns down a promotion from the mayor at the end, or towards the end of the plot. So that's also a form of penance, that he doesn't need to do it. There is no real logical reason why he should do it, but he does it anyway. She sort of tries to, not really to make up, but to punish himself for what he's done. And I think that's very interesting. Something that you definitely should get in there if your final exam goes in that direction. Then making amends. What do the characters do to make it up to the person that they have affected? On the one hand, of course, again we have Larry who tries to talk to Silas. So he tries to get into contact with him as a teenager after the fight scene, and but even later, so when Silas has returned, we have the phone calls. They're on page 29. So Silas has messages from Larry on his answering machine, and we have he tries to sort of establish contact again, and for example, the phone calls are really tentative. He's very careful. And we can see that he still has, the guilt is still sort of sitting on his back. exactly. So that's Larry, and again for Silas, it's much more complicated because what he has done, um, it has had a much bigger effect on Larry's life because there's been so many years of that have affected Larry. So he does many things. First, he starts to prove Larry's innocence, not only of the Rutherford girl, but also of Cindy Walker. And he even puts himself in bodily danger. So he really tries to make it right, to set it straight. He helps Larry settle back in after his time in hospital. So he prepares the house for Larry. He also feeds his chickens while he's in hospital. I think that's a very good symbol. The chickens, they come up a lot, and caring for the chickens is also something that is an important symbol in the novel. And so as I said, he helps Larry settle back in after his time in hospital, but he also feeds his chickens while he is in hospital. And a very, very central, maybe possibly the most central motive that we have here is the rifle. And at the end, before Larry actually returns to his house, Silas, who still has the rifle, cleans the rifle and puts it back into the rifle cabinet in Larry's house. And this is something that Larry also sees when he returns home. So this is, also a very strong symbol for how Silas wants to make amends. And one thing I just want to leave you with in this video is his motive selfishness? Does he do all these things to sort of get rid of this bad feeling that he has, of this bad opinion that he has, of the self-hate that he has developed since he realized what he's done? That's basically up to you to decide. Do you think it's selfishness, or is it something else? Of course, we could find out if the novel went on longer, but it doesn't. It ends with this great scene where they sort of make up, and we know that Silas will become Larry's first customer, and so it's promising, but we don't know if it's more than selfishness that is here. Okay, maybe you can write something into the comment. What do you think? Is it selfishness? Is it something else? Is it true affection? Is it the old friendship that sort of starts anew? Or is it maybe this bond between them, that they are half brothers? What do you think? That was it for today. If you have any other questions concerning this prezi, another aspect of the novel that I could talk about that you would like to have discussed, then feel free to drop me a line, to write something into the comments, and I will see you in the next video.